What really made it my true hero's journey was this was the bottom that was endless. There was no bottom. Mm-hmm. I just kept falling. There was always some tool that could save me, whether it was therapy or I tried antidepressants when I was 22 and depressed for a year and that worked. But nothing could save me. Nothing could save me.
When you get pregnant and go to the OBGYN, how much do they do to talk to you about?
Oh, none. No one told me that it was a possibility. Then I woke up the next morning, having slept 10 hours for the first time in 6 weeks. And my mom came in and she was like, honey, your husband's in the hospital passing a kidney stone. And your uncle's about to die. It was so messed up. I felt so defective as a mother. I felt so embarrassed. And it's life.
Yeah.
This is Earth School. It's in session. We're learning here. We're growing. It's hard. And so stuff is happening and traumatic stuff is happening, but I'm centered and I'm okay.
How on earth can you be expected to think, act, wake up normally?
So hard. And I had a 3-year-old at the time, and it was so hard. It was so hard.
Yep. Welcome to this episode of Rooted Recovery Stories. I'm Patrick Custer, your host, and I'm here in Los Angeles with the one and only recording artist, powerhouse vocalist. The list goes on. Somebody I admire so very much, and I'm so honored to be sitting down with today, Rachel Platten.
Oh, thank you for that beautiful introduction. Hi.
We did not coordinate our outfits today, but
don't lie. We said, let's go cult. Let's go cult white.
Oh my goodness. And I was like, listen, she knew the way to my heart. Not that I want to be in a cult. Everybody knows, our audience knows that I'm fascinated by the psychology.
I want to be in a cult is a perfect first line of our podcast.
I like connection, and I understand why people,
who doesn't understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a perfect segue into my story.
It is.
I'm kidding. It's not actually have anything to do with
I feel like anything can be a perfect. I'm like, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I did not know that you're from Boston. I don't think that you sound like you're from Boston.
No, I don't sound like I'm from Boston. But if you wanted me to, I could give you a Boston accent on
Let's hear. Okay. So what's the most Boston phrase that you could say right now with the accent?
Is it too soon for that? Or are the listeners going to be like, oh God, that is horribly unsexy. I'm turning this off.
No.
My husband gets so turned off when I do.
No.
Let's say your partner's hitting on you and you don't want them to at that moment. I would say a thick Boston accent is the way to go to turn them off. Okay, so here we go. Maureen, can we go to Target later? Let's get a beer. Give me I can't do, can I swear?
Yes, you
It's
can.
big part of my accent.
Okay, do it, go.
I want a brewski, right? Socks are playing later. I am on one today. I have to settle down. Okay.
Oh, no, you don't. Please bring it.
Okay.
Bring it. Okay. The energy is meant to be here. But that accent just doesn't match with your face
it's not
to me.
good. It's not attractive. It's horrible.
It's not that I'm not saying that it's not attractive. It's just
it's horrible. But it's home. It's home. That's what I was raised with. I love me 10 minutes ago. I have a time limit. I have to go soon. And then flash to me just doing 10 minutes of Boston accents.
It's very entertaining. So,
okay.
Were you an entertaining kid?
I thought so. I think so. I think I always loved attention, and I was always trying to figure out how to get it. And I think that I thought that I could be loved if I was perfect and entertaining and lovely.
Where on earth would you get that idea?
I don't know. God. I think it wasn't until recently that I have really learned how to be myself. And who that is, somewhere around turning 40, having kids, I could really settle into myself. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I love attention, and naturally I love to make people laugh, and I like people to smile, and I like to be delightful and charming, and yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you ever get negative because same here with the attention part and being I'm a Leo extrovert, so I was always performing whatever on my stage, which was the fireplace hearth at my parents' house.
Oh, same. Yeah. I was jumping on whatever, tables, chairs. Look at me.
I remember getting in trouble for telling jokes at funerals when I was 4 and 5 years old.
But who can resist a joke at a funeral?
Thank you.
It's so serious.
I'm just liking you more and more as this interview is going on.
I think I'm not not what you expect. Not you. Like, I think I'm maybe not what people expect when they think of the fight song girl.
Well, and yeah, I mean, and I think that, no, I'm not going to speculate what everybody thinks.
Oh,
because
speculate.
I think because the song was, I mean, the song was and still is everywhere in, you know, in so many regards, but like, it was very, you know, it was played on heavily on Christian radio. It was played on, you know, and a lot of, just, I
actually didn't know that it was played heavily on Christian radio.
You didn't?
No, I didn't. I mean, I know it was played on every station all the time. Like, so I'm not surprised, I guess, but
and it wasn't, I didn't know until a good bit into, after that song came out, that you weren't specifically a Christian music artist.
I know. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I know. I think that when Stand By You came out and I said the word hell in it, and I was like, my label did a very different direction with the music video. If you've seen it. I have
not seen the video for it.
No worries.
But now I want to go see.
You're not like 15 and a girl, so that's fine. But it's like very a Victoria's Secret ad of like, I'm in a bra and a skirt and like I'm dancing around and, you know, they spray painted my abs on and it's very like lots of extensions and hair and huge lashes. It's really not, you know, and I think that a lot of people in the comments were like, what the heck, where, you know, she's supposed to be this thing. What is she doing? And I was like, wait, I was supposed to be this thing? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know
when did I say that?
Yeah, I didn't know that I was supposed to be that other thing. I didn't say that I was, a Christian artist or anything. But I do understand that there's a hopeful nature to it, and there's a goodness at the core of a lot of my writing.
Yes.
And not that I'm good. I just mean that I write about hope, and I write about the light within the dark, and I write about. I write from a place of, I don't stay in the dark when I'm there. Like even in a song on my most recent album called Bad Thoughts, which is about panic attacks that I suffered with. By the end, I have a like part that I chant, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. And it's almost like I'm willing all of us out of the dark and the depths that I took you to. Yeah. So I understand where that comes from, but no, I'm not exclusively a Christian artist. Yeah. And I was raised Jewish.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I knew I was going to learn more. I always love learning more. I don't want to know everything about the guest before I interview, because I love finding things out in real time. And
yeah, that must be cool to and like genuinely be surprised and then figure out where you want to ask and where you want to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you still practice, or have you?
It's a complicated subject. I have found faith recently in the midst of, like a lot of people, in the midst of the depths of depression and my mental breakdowns, plural. I had to find something bigger than me. And it was through kind of clawing and undoing a lot of old beliefs that I found a direct relationship with God, and a very deep one and a very personal, beautiful one. And and so my relationship with spirituality and religion has changed quite a bit over the past 4 years. And I really love, more than anything, that I feel like it's a personal relationship now versus what I was raised with or what I was supposed to believe or what what my family believes even. I've kind of found my own way to God, and that feels really good to me. Yeah.
That I understand that so much, so very much, from my own experience. And I'm curious, do you think that there would have been any other way for you to get to this place of connection with your higher power and understanding a connection with your spirituality, had it not been for what you were forced through?
Yeah, no way. And I actually know that I'm not in AA, but I know friends that are who have taught me a lot, that like spirituality and the God of your own understanding is at the center of healing.
Yes.
Right. And that's really unbelievable to me, and also makes so much sense, because you can't get through something that is so impossible without a belief that there is a power greater than you to pull you out. And you get stuck in the mind and loop over and over if you believe that you are the most important thing and the biggest thing in the world. And that happened to me a lot, you know, in the depths of depression, was just like this spinning feeling of, why can't I do this? What am I doing wrong? Why can't I will or think myself out of this, you know, terrible cycle? And it wasn't until I understood, like, well, it's actually really requiring me a surrender more than fighting. And when I finally surrendered, actually the album I Am Rachel Platten that I just put out,
yes.
my publicist will love that, is about this exact thing, this journey through the dark night of the soul that we all eventually go through in our own ways. And I have a song on the record called Surrendering.
I love that you called it. No, I just have to pause right there and pay homage to the phrase you just said, the dark night of the soul. Is that a term that you were like, that you wrote?
Oh gosh, no, I wish
I haven't heard that before.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh, interesting. I've heard it so much. I think you'll probably start to hear it now a lot, right? It'll be like in the lexicon now.
It's powerful.
But I think that it's Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Okay.
Who first coined it, but I could be wrong.
I may be really embarrassed after this.
No, I don't think so. I'm so versed in mental health and psychology and all, like, the hero's journey and all this stuff. So, like, what's really common for me, I always expect other people to hear it. Like, I dropped the other day, like, well, she just has an insecure attachment. Yeah. And everyone was like, what are you talking about?
Attachment styles, get with it, Becky.
No, exactly. We are actually waking up though.
Yes.
So yeah, the dark night of the soul, I say it on stage a lot, and I'll be like, well, we all have our own versions of it. And we do, right? So the record tells the story of mine, and then how I found my light and faith and power, and you know,
would you
live
say
again.
that the dark night of your soul that the album is about, was that your first one, or had you experienced periods of dark nights before?
I had definitely experienced, let's say, for people listening, you can't see exactly what you're doing. Let's say, like, they're little blips on the graph, and you know how we all just go up and down, and
peaks and valleys.
Yeah. And so I definitely had felt darkness before, and thought that I had reached what the bottom was. And I think what really made it my true, like, hero's journey was this was a bottom that was endless. There was no bottom. I just kept falling. And that was different, because I think before there was always some tool that could save me, whether it was, I don't know, therapy, or I tried antidepressants when I was 22 and depressed for a year, and that worked, or, like, you know, a relationship, or songwriting, or some kind of success, or fight song exploding, or, you know, but nothing could save me. Nothing could save me.
So that poses two questions for me. Nothing could save me. This bottom was endless. I would challenge you and ask, like, was it really just a perspective? Because before it was endless, you just didn't see it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And
yeah, it's like the pain that I felt this time made me look at the other ones as, oh, how cute. Like, I thought that was hard. That was nothing compared to, you know, my 3-month-old in the hospital with 105-degree fever, and dissociating and having panic attacks, and my husband, like, passing a kidney stone, and my uncle dying, all within, like, a week, and me not sleeping for 3 nights, and just that made everything else feel really manageable. But I think you're right. Like, we only know what we know, and so none of us can judge anyone else's experience.
That's right. And comparing experience to experience is just,
doesn't even make sense. No, and actually with Fight Song, I remember that a lot of the backlash some of the backlash that I think that got, like, made its way to me was, what does she have to fight for? She's like a nice looking middle class white girl who's privileged, and, like, what the hell is she crying about? She that really hurt, because if someone who was older and had really tasted pain had looked at me and been like, you don't know pain, you know, that wouldn't make any sense to me, because at 27, that was incredibly painful to be rejected over and over for something that I was hoping to do in my life. And so you're right. It's perspective.
Totally.
Yeah. Totally.
So as you bring that up,
this was darker and harder
Yeah.
because of the length of time. I think also like it was 3 years almost of depression. And that's kind of what I mean by like,
was it unrelenting?
yeah, very, yeah. Yeah. But look at me now. I am so much better than I ever was.
Oh, I know. And it radiates.
Yeah. And grateful for it.
When you say nothing could save you, what do you mean?
From my mind, from the spinning and the loops and the scary places that my mind was going. Like it's when it's an outside thing, because I also had a journey with chronic pain and that was awful, but it was something that felt a little bit outside of me in a way. Like it wasn't my own mind I was battling with, but panic attacks and dissociation, and like when you're doing it to yourself, when you're at war with yourself, it's so terrifying because it doesn't matter how many people love you around you. It's like,
did you feel responsibility for what you were experiencing, like not being able to control it?
Yeah, and a deep sadness because I don't know if I've clarified, it was postpartum depression I was diagnosed with, but I think it would have erupted at any point because what I've now learned is that there was just so much repression of deep feelings that I had throughout my life, trying to be the kind of person that the Fight Song Girl should be, or that Rachel from Boston should be, or whatever, like to be loved, whatever things I was doing to mold myself and shape myself into that. I mean, I think it would have come out, and I think this is just the dam that broke. So it was postpartum depression, and it was hormonally like induced, and it was because I was recovering from, having a baby and my hormones changing, and I had her at 40 and it was a little bit later. And so it's rougher on a woman's body. And so there was that, but it also, I think, was when I started healing, I realized like, I'm not just healing my hormones here. There's also, although that was very real, and hormone therapy probably could have helped. And I know there's a new drug that's come out for postpartum depression, but yeah, I really do think that the work that I had to do and that invited me to do was a work of a lifetime.
And I almost feel like there's just everything we're about to talk about regarding this, I think is going to be the full explanation of exactly why the work of a lifetime, because just it is, has, and will change so many people's lives. This part of your story has been one that I'm so excited to talk about because, we, on our show, we talk about so many diverse storms under the umbrella of mental health that people go through, trauma, addiction, all of it.
Yeah.
But one that we have had a difficult time navigating, finding is someone with an experience like what you're talking about, who has struggled, found healing and hope, can articulate it, and then is in a place where they're willing to open up, because that's a whole other ball game.
Totally. I mean, so you can re-traumatize yourself if you're not really boundaried and like healed and really, you're so right. I understand that. Yeah.
One of the biggest reasons why I am, and we are so grateful that, I hate to use this word, but your story is collateral. It's collateral for hope. And,
wow.
The stories are what I truly believe. They're how, before people even knew how to write, stories were what transmitted our understanding of what was, what will be, and so stories are still what gives us a feeling, what transmits hope. It can transmit pain as well. There's a responsibility factor there, but I just I believe so strongly in the fact that it is so powerful and something not to be taken for granted and needs reverence. So
thank you.
Thank you. And I think more than anything, I'm trying to keep in mind that I think our audience and their awareness or lack thereof of what is out there versus what is not out there, as far as stories and collateral stories being told and messages being reconveyed. Yeah. And so, but this one specifically is, and not just from hey, this is what is potential, from what I know from all my girlfriends, I mean, like you go all the way back to when you get pregnant and go to the OBGYN. How much do they do to talk to you about?
Oh, none. No one told me that it was a possibility. No one shared with me, except for my best friend, who's a mom of 4, who gave me a book that I was in a very, kind of spiritually bypassing kind of place. And she gave me a book called The Fourth Trimester. And it was about a woman who struggled really deeply with postpartum depression. And I was like, I don't want to read this.
Right. This is a happy time of my life. How
this
dare
is
you
not
put
going
a
to
cloud
happen to
over
me.
my,
Of course that's not going to happen to me. And I think that might be the problem, why that conversation is limited, because you are also growing a human and you are really vulnerable and you are really protective of your mental state and the baby. And so it is really hard to allow in the idea of education about what could be. And even though it's 1 in, I think, 4 women experience postpartum depression now, which is so many. And so it's kind of shocking that we don't know more about it. But yeah, I do understand why. And I do understand the resistance, because I was resistant and was in denial that anything like that could ever happen to me.
Well, and I think that it's not just, I want to add to that. It's not just you. So, what happens to a woman, what happens to a mother, happens to the family and the generations that follow. And if we don't keep that in mind, we are doing everyone a disservice. And so to the straight man, the single guy, the dad who's like, yeah, but my wife, I'm not, hopefully we don't have to deal with that. But if we do, she'll go to a therapist. No, this is it will affect you and your kids and the people
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it affects the whole, I know you know what I mean. And so that's why I'm like, this story is not just for the other mommies out there or the mommies to be.
Yeah. Well, everyone has
this story,
a mom that they love in their life.
Yes. And
a lot of these stories are hidden. A lot of moms don't speak out about it because we're ashamed. Like it's a shameful thing to feel pain and like depression after what's supposed to be the happiest thing that happens to you in your life.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So you go through and you're, somebody is like, hey, here's a book, which I'm just going to say, like, I do the same thing most of the time. I'm like, oh, thank you so much for that book recommendation. And I'm like, I don't know. It's a bad trait of mine, but so you move on and, you have your child. And was it with both children or just the second one?
It was with both children. With Violet, it wasn't as extreme.
Okay.
And it was really severe with Sophie, my second.
Okay. And so.
And actually I wrote half of the album, in between
really
the 2 babies. And I had kind of had my deep valley and pain, and then recovered and wrote many of the songs. Like I wrote Bad Thoughts, and I wrote I Know, and a bunch of others, Surrendering, during that time, and I'll Be Her, and some of those. And then there was a second half of the record that got written in the throes of depression again. So it's interesting. Like some of it was looking back, giving myself the medicine that I thought that I didn't need anymore, but would need. And then some of it was written in a complete wrestling with God's surrender of just pain, and the songwriting was my outlet, was the only outlet that made me kind of feel a shred of sanity or thread of sanity, and a kind of path back to myself.
Sure.
Like when I would be on the piano, I'd be like, okay, maybe there's meaning in this. Maybe there's purpose for what I'm going through, because I do know that it seems like God works with me this way, that I have to really suffer. And then a big song comes, like Fight Song. And so I did have a tiny little feeling or idea or speck of hope in there in the midst of even all the terror.
Was Fight Song between the 2 kids?
Oh no, Fight Song I wrote
before,
13
right?
years ago.
Okay,
Yeah. I'm sorry. No, I meant but
Gotcha.
Fight Song, I had my own battle that I went through before that now I look back that wasn't as bad, but it was really hard. And after writing 1,000 songs, Fight Song came, but it was born of the struggle. So a lot of my songwriting is me transmuting pain into music.
Just to sidestep, because I don't want to skip this. For those who don't know, what was Fight Song? What pain was Fight Song about?
Oh yeah. It was I had been trying for, at that point, 13 years to make it in the music industry, and just had faced so much rejection and so many closed doors. And it was really just about that, about not wanting to give up on my dream, even though it felt really impossible. And I was broke and out of money and out of time in my mind. And my friends were moving on and buying houses, and I like to say on stage, like, I bought a van and and to tour around the country, and I was selling CDs out of a suitcase and burning them myself. It was like that era, and I wrote Fight Song about not giving up on the dream, even though it seemed impossible. So that's what it was born from. But it was a lot of pain, because I had a record deal that was on the table with a major label, and then they took it away, and that kind of spurred that desperation and feeling of like, what the dick is going on? Why can't I, do what I feel like I'm supposed to do in this world? But I didn't give up. And so that was that fight.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admissions center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help. I mean, there's a reason why obviously everybody can relate, right?
Yeah.
I hate that ever happened, that people like gave you any kind of crap about, like, say, what do you need to fight for?
Oh my God. I mean, honestly, it's run the gamut. I have gotten criticized for all of it, but I actually also have a real understanding and maturity about that now, of understanding, look, like, when something becomes so massively popular that it's in the zenith, like, or reaches its zenith and it's in the lexicon, everyone has to have a take.
Yes.
And then it becomes it's reaching people it was never meant for. I never meant for Fight Song to be like, liberal political pundits on the trail listening to it over. That wasn't supposed to be the purpose of it. It was for musicians to not give up on themselves, and for like young women to like, so people criticizing, and I'm like, yeah, you probably don't like this. This wasn't for you. That makes a lot of sense. You shouldn't like it. But it hurt a lot. I took it really personally.
Of course.
Like 10 years ago, it crushed me, because I was like, how dare you criticize this? This is helping people in the hospital. This is helping little kids fight cancer. How dare you criticize that? But now I understand. I mean, the hot take is like to criticize what's all hugely popular. And then there's going to be a turnaround at some point, and everyone will be like, what's great? Fight Song. And that's just the way it works. So I don't really take it that seriously anymore.
Good. I love that. I mean, and thank you for sharing that, because this is like a perspective on how to deal with that same stuff on a smaller level for the average person that does, doesn't have...
like me sobbing 2 months ago in an article like only focused on Fight Song, and I was like, God,
well, listen, we won't only focus on Fight Song, but I wanted to at least to be able to tell the whole story, I wanted to touch on it for at least a minute, because it's so connected. And so take me to when postpartum first manifested for you.
Yeah, it was when I was on tour. When Violet, my oldest, was 3 months old, I somewhat naively, idiotically was like, dude, having a baby's not going to change anything. I'm saying yes to this tour. I want to go play my dream venues, whatever. I'll strap the baby on my back and I'll breastfeed after the shows and it'll all be fine. And that's just that's not what happened. So it started to manifest on the tour, and it was kind of confusing because I thought it was situational, because I was like, well, the bed on the bus was broken. My manager sucked at the time and like got us a broken bus, and the driver was hitting on all of us. It was so fucked up.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't okay. And so there was a lot of situational things that made me feel like, well, I'm not sleeping because of the bed, and then my baby's up in the middle of the night and I'm feeding her. So like, that's what's going on with my insomnia. It's not my anxiety or my hormones. And so it was kind of confusing to understand. Like at some point, a friend of mine, a woman named Gabby Bernstein, she's an author and she's one of my best friends, and she also was suffering with postpartum depression. And so she called me at the time and was like, baby, actually you have postpartum depression. This is not like spirit guides not doing you right, or like, this is not negative energy from the shows. Like, I'm sorry, honey, but we go to a therapist and go to a psychiatrist and get some real help. And thank God she did. It saved my life. And
Did you follow her advice?
yeah, I didn't actually do Western medication at that point, but I did get an incredible therapist, and I did like take it seriously, and I did diagnose, she diagnosed me, and then I started to do therapy about that and a lot of inner child work and all that shit. So, but with Sophie, my second, when it manifested with Sophie, it was a lot more ferocious and it kind of came on a lot more quickly. And it was also, excuse me, a little more devastating because I think I had to realize, whoa, it wasn't just the tour. Like when it happened again, I realized that was not situational. That was my sweet body. And
because you weren't on tour with Sophie?
I wasn't on tour. I was at home in the pandemic. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of tour. I was completely alone.
Yeah.
Without family being able to visit and stuff. So it was like, on the one hand, both extremes were bad. The first time I was singing to 15,000 or 20,000 people a night, when you're like, it's a time when you should cocoon. It's natural to just be relearning matrescence, they call it, like learning how to be a mom, like adolescence for moms, And so that was wrong. And then with Sophie being completely isolated and the world being shut down and afraid of, germs and stuff with a newborn is terrifying. So that also wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
I'm never having another kid, but man, if I did, to do it now and just be normal. And actually, you know what? I don't know. I don't know. I might suffer again. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about is the whole, like, was there a level of shame that you experienced when you had Sophie and it came back?
Oh yeah.
But it was worse.
Yeah. Oh my God. So much shame. I felt so defective as a mother. I felt so embarrassed in front of my family that I was suffering again. And I felt like I was in such denial about it. My therapist had a hard time kind of getting through to me, that she was like, honey, I think that you're experiencing this again. And
so you were not yet at a place of acceptance.
Not the first 3 weeks. It was so intense. And also you're just really fucked up from the pregnancy. And I had a beautiful home birth and water in the bath, and the come down from it was really harsh. Like the hormones, the oxytocin that fled your body through birth, it instantly kind of falls away when the baby's gone. And so breastfeeding helps, but I don't mean to be too graphic. Sorry. But,
be as graphic.
Yeah. But,
absolutely.
But I think like the loss of the low progesterone and stuff was really hard on my body. And so I didn't really know what was up from down, but I wasn't sleeping again. And that was really scary. And I couldn't blame it on the baby because we had a baby nurse, and I know I'm really privileged to have that. But it just all became really scary and really shameful and really I couldn't believe it was happening. Yeah.
So what did you do?
I have an incredible therapist and I have an incredible psychiatrist, and I called Gabby again and I told her, and she's like, okay, you need to get some serious medication right now. Like go get some Ativan, which is a benzo, and go knock yourself out to sleep. And I had never done anything like that and felt like it was failing, but I was suffering so much that I tried it, and I did finally sleep. And I woke up the next morning, having slept 10 hours for the first time in 6 weeks. And my mom came in and she was like, honey, your husband's in the hospital passing a kidney stone. And your uncle's about to die. So we're going to go down to Newport Beach and help him die. And cause that's happening like in the next couple days, and Kevin's in the hospital and your baby nurse is here. It was so messed up. And I also felt in that moment, like, I was also in denial that what was happening, because I was like, well, anyone in my situation would be feeling the same way. This is horrible. Who could handle this?
Right.
But
which made you think
that I'm
it's situational.
Yeah. But now I realize, because crazy things happen when you have toddlers and you're a working mother and have a big job like I do. Like crazy stuff happens all the time and it's life.
Yeah.
Like this is Earth School. It's in session. We're learning here. We're growing. It's hard. And so stuff is happening and traumatic stuff is happening, but I'm centered and I'm okay. And I wasn't then, I wasn't. So it wasn't situational. I just was not okay. And so I have an amazing team. I went on Zoloft and Ativan to help me sleep. And
Yeah.
I did some really deep therapy and work. Yeah.
Being able to, as somebody who's never dipped their toe in like an understanding like how the difference of like therapy of, you know, working with talk therapy with a professional and dealing with trauma work and everything. And then what the chemical approach of dealing, you know, right. Like how different, like it's not all or nothing. It's all, you know.
Yeah. It's like a blend. I mean, my therapist always said, look, the SSRI is going to help us put the scaffolding up around the building so that you can actually start designing it and building. You know, right now, no matter how much work we do, it's like, you know, it's not making a dent because you can't even start to build because the foundation's not there.
Yeah.
And so that's what it was for me. It like laid the foundation so that the work that we were doing could actually start to work.
Yeah. I mean, like you talk about like, I mean, I know all moms, you know, say we're sleep deprived and what have you, but I mean, I just think about like the essentials of daily life. When you're deprived of them, how on earth can you be expected to think, act, wake up normally?
It was so hard. And I had a 3-year-old at the time, and it was so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like a switch. I wish it was.
Oh, to start.
No.
Healing?
Yeah. Like,
no.
so, I mean, like, you know, you said, you know, you talked about the acceptance, and the surrender and then taking action. But like, once you took action, like you start taking medication, what was your experience like as you're like putting one foot in front of the other? Do you remember, or was it?
Yeah, I do. Do you know how they say healing isn't linear?
Yes.
And you're just circling a mountain.
Yes.
And it doesn't look like a graph, a straight line up. And so there was crashes, and there was new problems, and there was a journey with chronic pain, and there was dissociation, and there was panic attacks. There was like more stuff that came. But if you looked on a scale of like where I was to where I was a year later, I was a little better. And then a year after that, I was a little better. And you know, 3 years after that, a bit better. And now, you know, all the way better. So it's like, I don't think in the moment I understood that it was working. It was so hard. But then, yeah, the people around me had faith that it was working. And I think that my music and my songwriting was allowing me to realize, like, have this thread of hope, like I talked about, and making the record and having that focus of like, I have a big project inside of me that needs to come out, and feeling this hunger to get it created, to birth it, was massive. And it was this pull that I think lifted me out more than anything, and my girls, you know, and their love and their laughter, and my husband, and like all those things combined, slowly but surely, I started to heal. Well,
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to me. You know, we talk about how like, no matter what any of these things are that you're talking about experiencing, letting it flow through you and actually like acknowledging it, experiencing and connecting to the experience so that you can move through it is so important.
The acceptance, right? It's like essential before we can't resist what's there.
You can compartmentalize it until it stores up and then boils and you burst.
Right. And actually I healed, but in healing, I was still bottling stuff up. And then it kind of came out in a, like I said, a journey with chronic pain in my back, and that became its own thing to focus on until I realized, oh, this is just another diversion of my sweet nervous system, which is so overwhelmed and overloaded and thinks that back pain is safer than healing and feeling all of the rage and terror and grief that's in me. And so even after so much work, I still had so many more layers to get to excavate. Isn't
it such a bitch when you're God. Like, I've done so much work, and then you realize, because there's part of your mind that thinks that like,
I'm done.
Graduation is coming soon.
Yeah, I know. It's so awful.
Because I've done all this. I did everything right. Everything they told me to. I know. I got everybody saying I did such a good job, and I've looked so much better, sounded so much better.
I know. It's awful. I know.
What helped, other than like connecting to the music, which obviously was so pivotal for you and essential to do exactly what you just said, the ability to have the tenacity necessary to keep going with the medication or when the pain came up.
Yeah.
look to a solution instead of just staying in it. The tenacity of holding on for hope and saying, no, wait, there is a better day. There should be sunshine. I'm not giving up till there will be sunshine. What thing or things or people was it that helped you?
I think faith. I think my relationship with God. I think that ultimately started to shift things. And I also think that I have an inner fighter in me. You know, I really am that fight song girl. And this is a different kind of fight. And this was a different kind of warrior that came out. But my old manager used to say about me, like, don't ever count her out. Like if I'm in a corner, knocked down, I would place a bet that I'm going to get up because I always do. And so there was that fighter in me that was like, I am not done. I am not done here. And I don't care what I've gone through. I will be okay for my girls. And it was also for my girls. It was also, I wanted them to have a mom that was healed and whole. And so I kept going for them. And, and also to be really honest, this sounds corny. It was, the word fans is awful, but it was my fans who wrote me. Can we find another word for that? It was my community.
Your community. It was my community who love you for music. Yeah.
That when I was sharing vulnerably on social media, which is, I think, is a gift that people are like, how could you have been so honest? But I didn't know how not to, because every time I did, I was met with this flood of warmth and you're not alone. And I've been through it too. And so hearing, like you said, hearing these other stories was something that made me feel not alone. And especially because it was the pandemic and that was the only way to really connect at that time. So my community was really incredible for me. My girls, God, and my husband, and my therapist is amazing. And I think all of that.
Shout out to the amazing therapists of the world.
God. I was actually I love therapy, by the way. I'm such a weirdo.
Me too.
I'm like, does everyone love therapy? And she's like, no one else loves therapy. You love therapy.
That's not, we love it.
You love therapy?
Yes.
I fucking love therapy. So anyway, I was literally just crying with her today because I was realizing how full circle I've come and how proud I am of myself and how whole I am right now and how integrated I am with the dark and the light and how I'm not pushing anything away and how boundaried and like, you know, my inner child feels loved and healed and all the jargon that we say. But but I was crying because I was just so proud of where I am.
As you should be.
Thank you so much.
I have a couple, like 2 questions before we wrap up. I know that we're at the end of our time, but I want to ask you, was there a point where you felt like there was no way?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Those were really scary times. Yeah, there was.
Were you able to talk about it?
Yeah. I was able. I told my sister and she told my mom and I told my therapist and she helped me understand that it was just, you know, an ideation and not thoughts and like, then there was something different. And she was like, it's understandable. It's just an expression of how much pain you're in. Yeah. So that was a beautiful way to look at it and realize, okay, I'm not scaring myself. This is just an expression of how much pain I'm in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the reason why I want to ask that is because I think that it's so powerful in sharing the story that people are listening right now saying, oh, I relate to so much of that feeling that I believe that people, when they experience I maybe ending it is crossing the mind or it can't go on in some level. There's so much shame there. Yeah. Knowing that's part of someone else's, right? Like they didn't just struggle, right? Like that you're not crazy just because it crosses your mind.
No, you're not.
You have a battle, you have a storm.
No, it's an expression of how deep your pain is.
Yes.
And that's all. And you don't have to be ashamed of it, but definitely tell someone because then you can be, flooded with love and support and told that there's nothing that wrong with you and that it's normal. I think it's really cool that we're becoming more brave to talk about our mental health. And I'm really proud of all the people that are working so hard to change the conversation around it. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy and honored to be one of them or included. And I hope that I can do it more and more. And I'm just really eager to let people know that there's nothing wrong with you for hurting.
Yeah.
The world is really hard, and life is really hard. It's part of the human experience. Like my Spanish nanny for my girls, she always says, "La vida es dura." Life is hard.
La vida es dura.
La vida es dura. Yeah.
Es dura.
Es dura.
Okay.
See, hard is hard.
I'm gonna have to remember that.
And I just always love that. It's like, I don't know. It always just felt so simple to me. Like, yeah, life is hard. I don't have to be happy all the time. Okay. Yeah. It's a good non-resistance, right? It's like acceptance of what is.
Yes. Because when you're happy all the time, it's fake.
Oh, fuck that. You can't be happy all the time.
So cheers to being happy when you're happy.
Yeah. Just being where you're at.
You're sad.
Being where you're at.
Final question. For the entire, mom, dad, son, daughter, brother, sister.
Grandma, grandpa, cousin.
Amen. Church. Okay.
Nephew, niece.
Yes.
Godson. Just kidding.
Are you?
Go ahead. I'm done.
I will sit here all day.
I'll stop.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So for all of those people I just named, what would you leave? And I know this is so open-ended, but when you think about, like, if this was the mark that you were just going to leave a final thought of encouragement, if it's someone who's supporting a woman through the battle that you went through, or this is a woman that is currently going through it.
Oh, man. Oh, I just wish, first of all, I really wish I could give them a hug. And I often think that sometimes we just need to let someone be where they're at, and not try to rush them out of the pain, because I think a lot of people around me wanted me to be better so quickly, and I could feel that, and I felt so ashamed every time I wasn't better. So I honestly think that a really beautiful gift could be to just let yourself be where you're at. It's not going to be forever, but it does feel like that right now, and so you are allowed to be hurting right now, and you don't have to change, and you don't have to run to, I don't know, you don't have to heal right now. And I think that taking the pressure off really helped me, and people who could allow me to be where I was, that was really special and really more healing than anyone giving me a pep talk. So I think when you're in the depths of depression or like any struggle or any addiction or battle, it can feel so forced and false when someone's like, you can do it. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Hope is around the corner. And you're like, just literally off. Like, I actually don't believe you.
Right.
So maybe just, you're here and I'm here with you. And that's my gift, and that's what I would recommend.
Thank you. My heart is so full.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah,
it was so wonderful. It was so nice being with you in a cult and our white outfits and just, talking softly.
Yeah, again, for those of you who know, it's like, I don't even know how I can go into this. We've had some fun talking about, like, starting a cult. And,
just because of our outfits, we just showed up and we were like, what is happening?
Yeah. I don't know. It was meant to be. Thanks to all of our audience members for being here today. If you are watching or listening, you are absolutely meant to be here. And we're so grateful for you and hope that you continue to tune in. And if Rachel's story has done anything, I hope that it has nudged you in just a little bit of a direction to change in whatever way makes your life better. Always remember that you're only one decision away for a completely different life. And it's never too late to start loving yourself. This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admissions center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.